Welcome to another custom-tailored deep dive designed specifically for you. Today, we're setting out on a mission to really explore the hidden biological and, environmental forces that essentially dictate our emotions, our behaviors, and especially our anxieties.
Yeah, it's a huge topic.
It is. And we're tracking this from the primal rhythmic beats echoing in prehistoric caves, right up to the very modern anxiety you might feel while doom scrolling through social media.
Which is all too common.
Exactly. And, importantly, the bizarre, highly specific rituals we invent to just cope with all that stress.
The scope of the sources we have today is immense. I mean, we are looking at anthropological texts on the history of medieval music, deep-level psychological studies focusing on anxiety and human evolution, and then acoustic engineering frameworks, and this is my favorite part, an interview with a rising industrial techno DJ.
Right.
And while they seem completely disparate on the surface, like what do these have in common? They all converge on one underlying core concept. Human beings are fundamentally biological computers.
Yeah.
We are just constantly attempting to hack our own programming and, the programming of the people around us.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because the idea of the brain as ancient hardware processing modern inputs, that's kind of the foundational premise of the evolutionary psychology texts in our stack, right?
Yep, the evolutionary mismatch.
Right. The sources use these classic examples to ground the discussion, like the familiar idea that we're biologically terrified of a spider, but completely unbothered by a modern, statistically way deadlier threat like a gun or a bomb.
Exactly, because our hunter-gatherer DNA just hasn't had time to update yet.
Exactly. Or how a craving for a high-calorie donut is really just a leftover survival trait from this energy-demanding ancestral lifestyle.
Gotta get those calories while you can.
Right. But where the research gets incredibly compelling for me is how this biological hardwiring applies to our complex social lives.
Oh yeah. The text introduced the mathematical side of evolutionary biology to explain social behavior, specifically focusing on kin selection and Hamilton's rule.
Okay, math time.
Bear with me. It is often expressed as a formula where relatedness times the benefit to the genetic pool must be greater than the cost to the individual.
Okay.
So rather than viewing altruism as this purely noble, conscious choice we make, this framework presents it as a calculating, fundamentally selfish biological algorithm designed to ensure genetic survival.
Wow. The wolf pack example from the text perfectly illustrates the philosophical weight of this concept, I think. So, if an elder wolf has a piece of scavenged meat and there are starving pups nearby, her behavior is completely dictated by shared genetics.
Right.
If the pups are entirely unrelated, biological math just doesn't support her sacrificing her food or her life for them.
The math doesn't math.
Right. But if she's their aunt, right, sharing roughly 25% of their genetic material, the calculus shifts. Ensuring the survival of those 5 pups guarantees a larger portion of her shared genetic pool carries on.
Yeah.
She makes the ultimate sacrifice not out of abstract morality, but because of a brutal, elegant biological mandate.
It really shatters the romanticized view of nature, revealing the exact same evolutionary logic that causes, sterile worker honeybees to willingly sacrifice themselves for them. But the sources take this a step further, addressing the obvious human exception. We don't just help our families. We frequently help complete strangers, which seems to just completely violate that genetic calculus we just talked about.
Right, why do we hold the door open for someone at the coffee shop?
Exactly. Evolutionary biologists explain this through the concept of indirect reciprocity. When we help a stranger, it's rarely done in total secrecy.
Bro.
We perform good deeds that are observed by third parties, and that builds our reputation within a broader community.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So being perceived as a good, helpful person is not just a moral stance. It's a vital survival strategy. By elevating your social standing, you drastically increase the likelihood that someone else in the tribe will expend resources to help you when you're the one in need. Our brains are deeply fundamentally wired to monitor our reputation. Because, for early humans, social exile meant certain death.
Which brings us to the psychological toll of this ancient programming operating in the modern world.
Oh boy.
This deep-seated evolutionary need to maintain a flawless reputation frequently misfires today. It leads directly to a phenomenon the sources highlight, coined by philosopher Alain de Botton, status anxiety.
Right. Status anxiety.
De Botton defines it as the suffocating feeling of being trapped in your current economic or social status, all while your peers seem to be effortlessly moving up the ladder.
Yeah.
It's that sharp, sudden sting of jealousy when a friend buys a beautiful new car or lands a massive promotion.
The research emphasizes that at its absolute core, status anxiety is driven by shame. It's not merely the material desire for the car or the job, it's the deep, terrifying fear that because you lack those things, a core aspect of yourself is defective.
Wow.
It's the terror of losing the respect of your peer group, which our ancient brains literally interpret as a threat to our physical survival.
And modern environments have completely turbocharged this fear. The sources specifically call out social media platforms like Facebook. I mean, these digital ecosystems are designed for constant toxic comparison.
Yeah.
We're no longer just comparing ourselves to our immediate neighbors. We're viewing highly curated, heavily filtered accounts of people globally,
Right.
highlighting their attractiveness, their fitness, their wealth. We internalize these impossible standards, leading to massive overconsumption, crushing debt, and very real psychological distress as we exhaust ourselves trying to keep up with this digital illusion.
It's exhausting,
Huh?
but the sources do offer highly practical cures for the listener to combat this.
Yeah, thankfully.
A primary strategy is intentionally engineering friction into your daily life. For example, leaving items in an online shopping cart overnight.
I do that.
It works. This simple pause combats the immediate dopamine-driven overconsumption triggered by peer pressure. By the next morning, the emotional spell is usually broken. Another vital step is actively unfollowing digital accounts that trigger feelings of inadequacy.
Curate your feed.
Absolutely. But the most profound and difficult cure, outlined in the text, is decoupling your own personal definition of success from society's external expectations. You have to write and follow your own metrics.
Yeah. But managing that kind of long-term existential status anxiety is a continuous process. The texts kind of shift focus here to explore how we handle acute, immediate anxiety.
Okay.
Like the sheer physiological panic right before you have to give a major presentation or walk into a high-stakes social situation. For this, the Stack points to a 2016 study published in the Journal of Health. It's titled "Don't Stop Believing: Rituals Improve Performance by Decreasing Anxiety."
Here's where it gets really interesting. The methodology of this study is incredibly specific and revealing. The researchers set out to prove that enacting a specific ritual lowers heart rates and improves performance significantly better than the standard advice of simply trying to calm down.
Yeah, just relax never works.
Never. But they draw a very sharp line between a routine and a ritual. A routine has a direct instrumental purpose-like stretching before a run physically prepares the muscles. A ritual is defined as a predefined sequence of symbolic actions characterized by formality and repetition that completely lacks any functional utility.
Right.
So bouncing a tennis ball exactly 3 times before serving, that's a ritual.
It's the symbolic, non-functional nature of the action that matters. And the researchers constructed this incredibly high-stress experiment to test this. Participants were brought into a room and told they had to sing the Journey song "Don't Stop Believin'" out loud into a Nintendo Wii directly in front of an experimenter.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Right. But before singing, one group was instructed to perform a highly novel ritual. They were asked to draw a picture of how they were feeling, sprinkle salt on the drawing, count to 5 out loud, crinkle the paper up, and throw it in the trash.
I mean, on paper it sounds completely absurd.
It does.
But the results were undeniable. And crucially, they were measured objectively using the Konami voice recognition software built into the game, which actually scored pitch, volume, and note duration.
Yeah.
The group that performed the salt and paper ritual scored significantly higher on singing accuracy. But beyond the performance, their physical anxiety actually dropped.
Right.
Researchers measured their heart rates, and the ritual group showed a marked physiological decrease compared to control groups who just sat quietly, or those who were explicitly told to try and calm down, a tactic that usually just amplifies anxiety.
The text notes this exact same ritual technique was applied to participants taking complex math tests under extreme time pressure, yielding the same reduction in anxiety and improvement in performance.
Wow.
But there is a vital, non-negotiable ingredient for the ritual to actually work: belief. Executing a series of steps only reduces your heart rate if you truly believe you are performing a ritual. Yeah, if the participant thinks they are just doing random behaviors, the physiological benefit completely disappears. It is the symbolic meaning attached to the sequence that swamps the working memory, essentially blocking the brain's cognitive bandwidth from processing anxious thoughts.
That is wild. We can see how personal novel rituals hack our individual anxiety. But the sources make a massive conceptual leap here. They shift focus to what happens when this ritualistic hacking is scaled up to the environmental level.
Yes.
Engineered by individuals the texts call H-creatives. These are highly creative masters of manipulating our nervous systems on a grand scale, specifically utilizing sound.
Yeah, the framework for this manipulation is called acoustic supernormal stimuli. The core principle is taking a natural auditory trigger, exaggerating it far beyond its physical limits, and using it to overwhelm the human auditory cortex to force an altered physiological state.
Okay.
The texts trace the evolution of this practice across 3 distinct historical eras, beginning with the prehistoric era and the organic manipulators.
Right. The anthropological sources point to early humans utilizing the natural acoustic properties of spaces like the Chauvet Cave in France. They didn't just stumble around. They mapped out the exact locations within these cave systems where low-frequency reverberations were naturally amplified. They paired those extreme acoustics with the primitive technology of the time, like large drums stretched with animal hide and flutes meticulously carved from vulture bones.
Because the acoustic objective was to artificially recreate and amplify the sounds of massive predators or a pounding heartbeat. When you hit the human auditory cortex with a low-frequency pulse that is significantly louder than a natural heartbeat bouncing off a cave wall, it bypasses logical processing entirely. The amygdala reacts instantly, inducing a profound trance state and facilitating intense group synchronization.
And the text follows this biological hack into the historical era, introducing the architectural illusionists. So humans stopped relying on natural cave formations and started building artificial echo chambers. We see the early stages of this in Greek amphitheaters like Epidaurus, which were engineered to project a single human voice to an audience of thousands. But the pinnacle of this era, according to the sources, is the Gothic cathedral and the medieval pipe organ.
The history of the Pope organ is a really fascinating pivot in the text. During the Byzantine period, the organ was primarily a secular instrument used by the nobility. However, as it moved west, the church recognized its sheer, overwhelming acoustic power. By 1361, in Halberstadt, Germany, builders had constructed an organ so massive it required 10 men just to operate the bellows.
10 men. And the biological impact of these machines is staggering. Later builders like Aristide Cavaillé-Coll pushed the engineering even further, creating massive sub-bass pedal tones hitting between 16 and 32 hertz.
Oh, wow.
These are frequencies so incredibly low that they cross the threshold of hearing and become deeply physical.
Those specific frequencies literally vibrate the human ribs. More importantly, they stimulate the vagus nerve, which is a major component of the parasympathetic nervous system. By vibrating the vagus nerve, the instrument directly manipulates the listener's visceral emotional state. The church utilized this acoustic gigantism to transform the organ into a divine ecclesiastical tool. It was a massive architectural and sonic display of power designed to make a single human voice feel cosmically large, making the concept of the divine feel physically tangible to the congregation.
This mechanism of bypassing cognition brings us to the contemporary era and the computational architects. Today, creators don't need a Gothic cathedral or 10 men working a bellows. They rely on digital audio workstations, or DRWs, like Ableton Live. Modern producers use techniques like multi-band compression and granular synthesis to push sound past the limits of biological perfection. They can take a human vocal, slice it into microscopic grains, pitch correct it flawlessly, compress the dynamics so it is constantly aggressively present, and add harmonic distortion.
And the result is a hyper-real audio experience. The brain's pattern recognition software registers the sound as a human voice, but it is physically impossible for a real human throat to produce it. This raises a crucial concept in the text regarding reward prediction error. How do modern producers engineer true addictive engagement or even physiological arousal using just a laptop? The secret is engineered contrast.
Exactly. The sources point to mentalists, electronic musicians like Skrillex, and film composers like Hans Zimmer as absolute masters of this. They don't just make the track consistently loud, they meticulously engineer stillness. They will remove frequencies entirely, narrowing the soundscape down to almost nothing, creating an incredibly tense, unnatural silence. And then they violently slam the full spectrum, heavy bass sound back in.
That technique is a hierarchical predictive violation. Your brain is constantly predicting auditory patterns. When they violate that prediction by dropping to a dead silence and then immediately overwhelm the sensory inputs, the sheer contrast spikes dopamine and creates a massive surge of noradrenergic arousal.
Wow.
It is a calculated, deeply effective hack of the brain's reward center.
So what does this all mean when we put it into practice today? The stack brings all these historical and psychological threads together with a real-world example. Texas-born industrial techno DJ, Sarah Landry.
Yeah, she represents the ultimate modern H-creative.
Totally.
Her approach to music is a perfect sociological synthesis of everything we've discussed. She describes her own sound as witchy warehouse techno and actively explores the transcendent, almost spiritual power that techno can have when deployed on massive festival-sized sound systems. She recently launched her own record label called Hecate, named after the Greek goddess of witchcraft. The interview notes she created the label specifically to honor the divine feminine and to build an inclusive, powerful space where she can exercise total creative freedom.
And the parallels between her work and the historical examples in the text are undeniable. When you listen to her production, for instance, her remix of Rudosa's track Passive Submission, she brings in dirty acid lines, drastically ups the tempo, and creates an environment described as mid-90s squat party mayhem. She is executing the exact same biological hack that the medieval monks achieved with the gigantic pipe organs, or that prehistoric humans managed with bone flutes in cave echo chambers.
She is overwhelming the auditory cortex with a predefined, heavy sequence of extreme sound. By pushing the acoustic stimuli past normal thresholds, she facilitates intense group cohesion, allows for raw identity expression, and completely alters the physiological state of everyone in the room.
Right.
The biological hardware of the human audience hasn't changed in thousands of years. Only the precision of the acoustic software has evolved.
So true. Let's bring this all home for you. Think about the incredible scope of the journey the sources laid out today. From the ancient evolutionary programming that makes you instinctively fear a spider but deeply crave a donut, to the brutal mathematics of kin selection that dictate our social bonds. We've seen how the vital need for a good reputation in a prehistoric tribe mutated into the modern status anxiety that drives toxic social media habits. You are in so many ways a biological machine running very old, highly reactive software.
But the crucial takeaway from the text is that you are not powerless against this hardwiring. You have proven tools at your disposal. You can utilize novel, seemingly absurd rituals, complete with crinkled paper and salt, to legitimately lower your heart rate and improve your cognitive performance when under acute pressure.
Yeah.
And you can willingly immerse yourself in meticulously engineered high-contrast soundscapes to experience true communal transcendence. Because whether it's a prehistoric vulture bone flute, a towering medieval cathedral pipe organ, or a modern DJ armed with a digital audio workstation, the biological objective has remained exactly the same across all of human history.
Right.
Using exaggerated supernormal stimuli to bypass your logical cognition and directly access your human physiology.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought from the sources to mull over. The texts actually look ahead to predict the next phase of this acoustic hacking, a concept they call adaptive personalization. Imagine a near future where wearable technology constantly feeds your exact real-time heart rate, blood pressure, and brainwave activity directly into an AI. Right. That AI then generates a custom, ever-changing soundscape designed to hit your precise neurological bliss point perfectly, second by second. It is the ultimate evolution of the supernormal stimulus. But it begs a massive question. If we can eventually bypass the physical world entirely and just project perfect harmonic patterns straight into our individual neural circuits, do we risk losing the communal, shared rituals that evolution wired us to crave in the first place? Will the ultimate acoustic hack leave us perfectly stimulated, but entirely alone? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.